It's been a full year since Insta360 jumped on the scene with this, the Insta360 X5, their flagship 360-degree 8K video camera. Now, I've been using it for the best part of that year since I traded in my X3 last year for this, which I don't usually do. Usually if I have a model of a camera, I'll stick it out for the long run, but there were a couple of features on this that really caught my eye. But how I've actually found it over the last year in real terms. We can talk specs all day long, but in terms of real world application and uses, what have I actually noticed that's been better than the previous models and good on this one? And what I still recommend it is the flagship action camera in the 360-degree space in 2026. Well, I've tested it all over, so let's talk about it in today's video. Let's get into this, shall we? Also, I'm not sponsored, I just own this shirt and I thought it would fit, so yeah, ignore that. The first of the biggest factors for me here with the Insta360 X5 is the sensor size. It is big. It is 1/1.28 inches, up from the 1/2 inches from the previous model, the X4, and even more so from the X3. And I know I said we wouldn't harp on about the statistics here, but it does make a difference, seriously. Along with the AI model inside, the camera that does really nice upscaling at lower light through pure video mode, I found that actually getting detail in the slightly dimmer situations is far better than it used to be, and at a standard that is actually usable now, as opposed to the X3, which would quickly turn into an absolute blurry mess. I look back at older X3 footage, especially my time in Japan last year, and really wish that I had the X5 on me at that time, because the quality difference is just absolutely massive. We're in the early stages of the 360 tech here, where massive leaps are being made before we get to the more marginal stages of upgrades year on year. I'd say the X5 is near enough the gold standard of low light and night shooting. There's still grain 100%, it's impossible to get rid of it all, but we are leaps and bounds ahead of where we used to be. And a year later it still stands at the very top of the scale here. The second biggest upgrade that I really feel a year later are the lenses. These are now replaceable and also have that sapphire glass level coating, and I found that they're pretty damn scratch resistant, and also it doesn't matter if you do scratch them due to that replaceable nature. I found myself to be a lot more carefree and experimental with my shots and my coverage because I can afford to put the camera in places that I just couldn't previously. With the X3 or the X4, or even some of the GoPro offerings and DJI offerings without the replaceable lenses, if you scratch them, it's back to the manufacturer. But here with the X5, you can easily buy a new lens kit for about $25, $30, about £30 here in the UK, and get the old broken lens off and the new one in there. It's super easy, pretty damn cheap compared to replacing the entire camera unit, which still does retail for about £550, and is a real game changer. The quick release system has also been fantastic here. Wasn't on the X3 when I had that, but it is here on the X5. Just easy to mount and unmount, and I've used this in karting, in airsofting. It's never come off, never wobbled. It's been completely secure, and I'm really happy with the performance. Just such an easy magnetic mounting system, along with the traditional screw thread at the bottom of the camera, so you have the best of both worlds. Battery life is yet another place where the X5 really shines. I'm able to power through an entire day of airsofting or multiple karting sessions and not need to change a thing, and this is in both hot and cold temperatures. Even by gigantic waterfalls and 60-mile-per-hour winds in Iceland, this camera did not flinch in terms of battery life or power supply. It never turned off, it never stuttered, nothing ever went wrong on the software or hardware side. It's been an absolute beast with zero issues. Waterproofing has always been a bit of a point of contention with the Insta360 lineup, especially the 360 cameras, unlike the Ace Pro and the other flat one-lens camera systems they have. With the X3, there are tons of reports of the camera failing when submerged underwater, either accidentally or on purpose. If you are actually filming underwater, yes, you will need a dive cage. I haven't really used one of these. I don't have one. I don't really do that sort of activity where I'd need one of those. However, I have used it in conditions where it's been incredibly wet, in pools and lagoons, and I've never had an issue. Even with third-party batteries, which aren't really fully recommended and rated by Insta360, obviously, it's been completely fine. Submerged or splashed or rained on, or hit by the spray of a waterfall, there's been no issues in terms of any water getting in or out of the camera when it wasn't supposed to, and it's given me complete peace of mind. I never had any problems with my X3, to be fair, so it's not really an upgrade from the previous model, and not something that has really changed a year later in the 360 market, but it is something to be aware of that, at least in my opinion and my experience, there's been no problem. One thing that has been a little bit more challenging with the X5 has been the file sizes. I love shooting in 8K, either 25 FPS or 30, usually 25 to keep it in line with the rest of my camera equipment, and these files take up a lot of storage. You can easily fill out 256 gigabytes in no time. In the past with the X3, which shot in 5.6K, I would usually keep copies of every single file that I've shot, meaning I can go back to any stage of the process and adjust anything I need to in terms of post-production. After I'm done with personal projects this time with the X5 though, I usually get rid of that footage. Especially if it's long sessions like karting or airsoft. Those original files just go because, especially in today's market of SSD prices, I just can't really afford to use the space to store them. That's quite a niche problem, but it is something that definitely exists. But the quality that you're getting from that 8K resolution is mind-blowing for a 360 camera, so the trade-off isn't too bad, in my opinion, just something to be aware of. For client shoots though, yes, I do keep everything as normal as I did before because that is more important than, say, a YouTube video where I don't really need the footage once it's done. But if you do like to have backups of every single file for the rest of the time, just bear in mind the 8K ones are fairly chunky. What is chunky as well is the camera size of the X5. Compared to the X3 especially, and also DJI and GoPro's offerings, it's got a bit more chunk to it. In the case of the X3, it's just the same dimensions but expanded by a little bit. After a while, I haven't really noticed this change too much, but especially upon buying it, I definitely felt that, one, it was more robust in its build quality, which is great, but also it is a bit heavier and a bit bigger. In comparison with the GoPro offerings and the DJI offerings, it just looks different. It's got a different form factor, it's more slender. This is great for some cases. I find that on the end of selfie sticks, it doesn't feel too intrusive because it's not very wide. But on a helmet mount, you can definitely feel it. It feels like you have some sort of weird protrusion from the top of your head, as opposed to the more rounded designs of other action cameras in the 360 space that feel a bit more normal, let's say. I've also found that the upgrades to wind reduction and directional audio have been great with the X5 over the last year. Especially when not running a separate microphone, I found that talking to the camera, even with some wind, has been perfectly usable. Because now we have actual physical wind guards in the camera, whereas before it was all done through software. You can definitely tell the difference. And the directional focus means that I can point the camera in one direction in post and it will capture that voice as the main source of audio, which is brilliant. Have a listen here.
And of course we didn't get to see the glacier, which kind of sucks, but it's definitely been worth it. I mean, that view alone behind me is just ridiculous. Honestly, it might be the highlight. The first waterfall, Skogafoss was...
One little pain point though is the PC and Mac software. It's perfectly fine as an editing device. It's basically getting your 360 footage and turning it into something flat, which you can put into a conventional editor like DaVinci, Premiere, or Final Cut. Again, this works fine in practice, and there's even some great tools for switching between different perspectives, but the only part where this falls short for me is the timeline, zooming in and out, and management. It just doesn't quite feel fluid and there yet, especially on a Mac Glass trackpad. But apart from that, the software is pretty robust. It's never crashed on me, it's never had any issues, and exporting is really fast, especially on Silicon Macs. So I can't complain there. I just wish it was a bit more tactile in the timeline itself. Finally, I want to talk about the display and UI. The UI has been pretty decent. It's really responsive, doesn't really lag at all. That's down to the processor and the camera. However, some of the icons in the UI aren't really designed to be the most intuitive, in my opinion. That's the biggest complaint I can really give to it. The screen that it's actually displayed on the X5 as well is a bit bigger than the X3 I used previously, and a bit brighter, meaning that in those outside conditions it's perfectly fine to navigate, which has been a great upgrade. Finally, I just want to shout out the feature that I've actually used the most over the last year, which is the quick record feature, where instead of hitting the power button and then recording, you just hit record and the camera turns on and gets going for you. This just means you miss barely any action, and that turning on process and turning off process after you're done is really, really quick. Something I've noticed definitely over the previous generations. Overall, my experience with the Insta360 X5 has been fantastic, and I'd still rate it as an action camera that you should pick up this year. We're unsure what's on the horizon for Insta360 and the other camera companies in the action cam space. It's possible the X6 could launch this year or next year, but I'm really not sure what would be in it that would really draw me to buy it. The only feature that would be at all tempting would be 8K 60. That's pretty much it. Everything else the X5 has covered: the replaceable lenses, the bigger sensor, better low light performance, smooth as butter operation, magnetic mounting. It's all there and it's fantastic. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye bye.